Hey guys, think for a moment about first impressions and what we do as people to try to manage those first impressions. Maybe we dress up real sharply. Maybe we brush our teeth. Maybe we comb our hair. But we do a lot of things with the intent and purpose of managing that first opinion that somebody has of us. And it's with that guideline that we're going to look at the first in our series on presentation basics. Today, we're going to focus on introductions. So why don't I fumble around with the share screen aspect of this for a second, and we'll get started. This is like the seventh of these videos, and I gotta say, I'm getting pretty smooth at them. So the value of an introduction is actually based in the concept of the primacy recency effect, which is a communication theory, which suggests that the first interaction, the primary interaction that we have, and the last or the most recent aspect of communication actually carries the most amount of weight. And we see this happen quite a bit in interpersonal communication, where that first impression, of course, plays a huge role, but then also our most recent interaction with a person can kind of carry a weight. Think about a dating relationship, not necessarily a marriage one, and how your most recent date went might be how you view with a little bit more weight how that relationship is going. And actually, to set this up, the PowerPoint set of slides, it's only 4 slides, but it's pretty dense material. So when you look at the PowerPoints, it's one PowerPoint, but it's actually a couple of different lectures for this. This one only covers the first slide, which is the introduction of a speech. And regardless of the speech, whether it's an introduction speech, whether it's an after dinner speech, an informative speech, a persuasive speech, the basis of a introduction is going to cover 3 different concepts. The first would be an attention-getting device, something whose sole job it is to get your audience excited, not just for your topic, but to be able to listen to you on that topic. And we can do this in a variety of different ways. I've listed a couple of them onto the PowerPoint. But if you think about how I started this particular lecture by asking you to think about first impressions, that's a form of a rhetorical question. It's just to get people's mind going. From there, we're going to go to thesis statements. Now, I've taught some college level English classes before, and I think that actually high school English teachers do a really good job of teaching the importance of a clear and concise thesis statement. And so I'm not going to recover a lot of those grounds. I think the big key to be able to understand how it separates for a speech is in a speech, it really does need to be one very clear sentence so that it is obvious to a listener what the speech is about. One of the differences between writing to speak as opposed to writing for something to be read is quite literally somebody that doesn't understand something or somebody that is looking to reconsider something can go back and reread it again, as opposed to a public speech where you get one opportunity to be able to do it. So if somebody doesn't understand your thesis, they're going to miss out on the opportunity to do that. And more importantly, you as the speaker don't have the opportunity to go back and redo it if you miss your opportunity to. The kind of lost part of the introduction is the main point preview. It's the idea of explaining in a very brief setting what we are about to see in the speech. Let me give you an example of how that might go. And I think a really effective way to look at it is through a late night talk show where they start off with an attention-getting device. It's a series of jokes called a monologue. They give you a thesis. The thesis is almost always, we've got a great show for you tonight. And then they list the preview. They list off the 3 guests. It's traditionally 3 guests that you're going to see on the show. And what that does is it provides for a kind of a background of here's what you're going to expect. In regards to a speech, we do that to kind of set audience expectations, both for what you're going to be able to see and I think equally as importantly, what you're not going to see. In totality, I think in a speech that is less than 10 minutes long, each of these 3 things should probably be altogether less than 90 seconds of a speech. And for a speech that's half of that long, like let's say it's a 5-minute long introductory speech, what we start UC 120 with, the combination of these 3 is probably going to be right around 45 seconds. The reason why we want to do that is for balance in the speech. You want that speech to flow logically so that when you finish something and move on to the next thing, it seems timed properly. If you spend 90 seconds of a 5-minute speech introducing what that speech is going to be about, then by its nature, the main points and the conclusion will have a little less impact. So as we wrap up this brief interaction, the big keys to take away are that an introduction has an attention-getting device, a thesis, and a preview. The reason why it is so important is because of the primacy recency effect. I mean, the fact that the first part of that speech actually does carry a little bit more weight. And so as we determine what topics we're going to do for these speeches and things like that, I think it's really important to be able to grasp on to the importance of the first part of that presentation. Have a fantastic day, guys.